Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Art is Podcast. This is Boris, cartoonist, teacher, podcaster, YouTuber, among other things. I also have a blog, so I guess I can call myself a blogger. But just keep in mind cartoonist, I guess. Actually, this is the podcast where you might actually hear me get emotional, maybe. That's right, we are going to talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So, I just saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse today in cinema. And yeah, I wanted to see it in theaters. And I think you have to see it in theaters. So quickly, my history or my connection to Spider-Man, of course, who doesn't like Spider-Man, right? Like every kid grows up loving Spider-Man. And he was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. There are a lot of stories, but maybe we won't go into all the details. But just quickly, he was actually, for those who don't know, he was introduced, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the title of the series they were doing called Amazing Stories. So he didn't appear in his own comic book. So I think it was one of those issues which were going to get cancelled, and Stan Lee put this character who was the first teenager superhero. Usually the teenagers were sidekicks, and so the story, this is the story as it goes. I think Stan Lee had the idea and went to Jack Kirby, the comic book artist. I think he didn't like the way Jack Kirby drew Spider-Man because he drew him like a big, muscular man. And he went to Ditko, who actually came up with the design of Spider-Man that we know today. Actually, I think his design is one of those designs which is like timeless. So I'm not a big comics kid because I didn't grow up in US. I grew up in India, and I grew up loving everything which is visual, like cartoons, drawings, and like anything which was sort of drawn, like which I could identify as something, just because I love drawing. I guess when it comes to movies, of course, I think the Spider-Man, the first movie by Sam Raimi, was the movie. I think all the success of superhero movies have owe to that. Some would say Blade before that, but in terms of mainstream recognition, I think Spider-Man paved the way for the other superheroes. But this Spider-Man doesn't have only Peter Parker. It also has a lot of different Spider-Man or Spider-Women, for that matter. So a little background from what I've been able to gather about Spider-Man, the Miles Morales Spider-Man. Actually, this is not spoilers, but there's a little Easter egg. There are a lot of Easter eggs, of course, but for those who love comics and the Spider-Man universe. So I follow Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin. They do a podcast called Fat Man Beyond, which I love. They talk about, basically they do what I do here, but it's just they go, they talk about all the things that are going on in the geek world, cinema, comics, video games, not video games, but yeah. And Mark Bernardin, he's a journalist. He has written for TV and so on, and he has suggested why can't Spider-Man be black, or from a minority, or can his ethnicity could be or he could be from a minority group. And I think he talked about it. I think he got a lot of hate for that. And then Brian Michael Bendis, who created the character of Miles Morales, actually he created it not to just to show that we can have a different Spider-Man, but he wanted a Spider-Man which his adopted kids could look up to, I guess. Like when in the movie, Miles goes to see his uncle Aaron, played by Mahershala Ali. On the TV screen, you can see he's watching Donald Glover with the Spider-Man pajamas, waking up in one of the scenes in Community. Because like everybody was asking, like waiting for him to be the next Spider-Man. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he voiced the audience wanted it so much, I think, that he got to voice Spider-Man for one of the animated series. So, do you remember when I did my podcast on Aquaman, where I split my points into good ones, bad ones, and mixed ones? Well, this time it's all good. I mean, I just watched the movie like 4 or 5 hours ago, and I can't seem to point out a boring part of the movie. It's really, I mean, I have to say, like, this is the best Spider-Man movie for me, like, all combined, live action and, well, live action, there wasn't any Spider-Man animated movie, was there? Like, I don't know, like, I don't remember any Spider-Man movie. So just to get this out of the way, I hate to bring the mood down by going a little tiny bit political, but I have to do this because this supports my theory. In the last podcast, I talked about the fact that I hate how there are studios or creators who are being forced to include diverse characters for the sake of representation into movies, series, and so on. I argue that instead of changing the characters into a minority, you should create a new one. And this is what happened when Brian Michael Bendis created Miles Morales as Spider-Man. So, and you can see, like, you can feel that it doesn't feel forced. It feels natural. A kid who would come from that neighborhood, from that environment, will be like that. So that was it. That was what I was referring to as the tiny political part. That wasn't so bad, was it? And that was the hard part. So the movie is brilliantly directed by Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. To be honest, I didn't know them. I quickly checked on IMDb. I think they were in the art department, so you could now I understand why the movie is so rich in, like, visually rich and like super enjoyable. And I think these guys grew up really loving the source material, especially loving the storytelling form of comics, and you can see it. Like, there are tiny things, like they've done, like thought bubbles and so on, which they could have, they went length to put it there, and it's amazing. It was a blast. It was a pleasure. It was like a love letter to the comics form. So from this point on, this podcast is for people who have watched and enjoyed it as much as me, if not more, because I'm going to spoil the movie. So go watch it. I wish I could go watch it again. And you don't need to know what happens in the comics to understand this movie, just so you know. So let's get into the spoiler zone. So, and speaking of the father and son relationship, because I was mentioning like Brian Michael Bendis as a father created the character. Oh my god, like the relationship between father and son in the movie, I got glassy-eyed. I got choked up in a lot of scenes between him and his father, and him and his uncle. Like, who like played by Mahershala Ali, like, who plays his surrogate father. I mean, I know how people understand what they want to understand, but those poignant lines, like when his uncle Aaron says, "You're on your way, just keep doing it." I mean, it felt like, he was talking to me, like, when or when his father says, "Whatever you want to become, I'm sure you'll be great at it." Oh my god, like, which kid doesn't want to hear that from the parents? So, again, I'm jumping all over the place, but first of all, I have to compliment, before going anywhere, the tight script that these guys have come up with. I think there's I forgot the name of the third person, but it's Phil Lord and Miller. I forgot his first name, but Lord and Miller, actually, it's they have done the Lego Movie, and which is also like another fun movie, and this is the, like, it's so fun, it's made with such love for the character, and you can feel it. Again, this is art in in its purest form. I mean, I love this. So and the script is tight. Like I said, I can't find a moment where it was boring. Like, everything is like really like selected and wonderfully directed. But the other thing that this movie was, like I said, was made with love. And like, after watching the movie, I was in a really good mood. I mean, I'm still in a really good mood. And the visuals are great. Like I said, like, these guys, the directors, seem to be coming from the art background. Like, they were art directors or in the art team for other animated movies. And you could see it. And of course, the music is amazing. I need to find the name of the music director just to give him, because I'm just, as I'm speaking this, I usually don't do this during the podcast, but I'm just going through, of course, the music by Daniel Pemberton. It's amazing. Like, and of course, the songs they've selected, it's really great. And as an artist, I love the graphics, the visual storytelling. As I said, the use of comic book captions, thought bubbles. There surely are bigger comic book fans than me, because I didn't grow up with comics, like I said, but I came into the comics really late. So I'm sure, like, there were a lot of like Easter eggs for comic book fans, like covers, like images from covers, and like panels and so on. So like iconic images. So as I'm recording, I'm going through the cast, because there was some great voice acting, starting with Shameik. I think it's pronounced Shameik Moore, who plays Miles Morales. Actually, he was in the movie Dope. Peter B. Parker, the second Peter Parker. So, like I said, we are in the spoiler zone anyway. The first Peter Parker gets killed in this universe. Again, in Miles Morales' universe. And he gets coached by another Peter Parker, Peter B. Parker, who comes from another alternate universe. And the first Peter Parker is voiced by Chris Pine. And there is a really emotional moment that, he... Like, there's a moment where, like, there's like an explosion happens, and Kingpin is on his way, and like they are all under like some like rubble, and like, I think he knows he will die, but because he's this kid and he doesn't want to scare him, he says, like, I'm okay, kid, and he says, like, don't wear a mask, like, don't trust anyone, like he has everyone in his pocket, and it's like, oh, it's so good. Jake Johnson, like I said, so plays Peter B. Parker's voice. He's from New Girl, and the last time I saw him in a movie, it was with Tom Cruise in The Mummy. Haley Steinfeld plays Gwen Stacy. There are like good, like legit funny scenes with Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales in this one. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, Uncle Aaron is played by Mahershala Ali. He's having a great year, by the way. Of course, he was in Luke Cage. He won the Oscar for Moonlight. He was in... of course, Moonlight was a long time. But what I'm saying is that he's getting like really great projects. Like he was in Green Book, which I think might have some Oscar buzz around it for this year. He's in Alita: Battle Angel, which I'm eager to see. Of course, that's the next movie on my list. And he's in True Detective season 3, which looks great. By the way, I just saw the trailer. For Jefferson Davis, Miles Morales' dad is played by Brian Tyree Henry. Lila Tomlin plays Aunt May. It's like really great. Like Luna Roran Velez, she plays Rio Morales. So again, I've not read Miles Morales' comics, and it seems that I think his father is like a stepfather, but they don't have they have a really great relationship, like, because usually, like in movies or in, like, usually the stepfather is very distant, or the kids don't like the stepfather or the stepmother. So, but this one is like, there's a really great I was going to say chemistry. There's a really great relationship between them. Zoe Kravitz plays Mary Jane. John Mulaney plays Spider-Ham. That was fun. He was. When I was listening to it, I was like, I've heard this voice somewhere, and it was fun to finally reveal, like, to myself, through the magic of IMDb, of course, the voice cast. And Kimiko Glenn, I don't know her. She plays Penny Parker, the girl with the Spider-Man robot. And this one was Spider-Man Noir was played by Nicolas Cage, and this one I knew immediately when he started working, because it's because I watched Vampire's Kiss recently, and by the way, I want to do a podcast about that, but I want to I want to talk about that. Anyway, he's great. Like, I mean, Nicolas Cage, he's like a cult actor. we love him. Catherine Hahn plays Doc Ock, and that character was also really great. Liev Schreiber plays Wilson Fisk. And Wilson Fisk's character also has really great depth. He has real motivation, and he's really well played, I think. So, and the charming Chris Pine as Peter Parker. I mean, that's just amazing. This movie juggles, like, character arcs like it's nobody's business. Like, I mean, this is masterclass in writing. Like, you see what the main characters go through. I mean, not all characters. Like, for example, Peter Porker doesn't really have a character arc. Like, he doesn't change or he doesn't learn anything new. But if you take the Gwen Stacy, like, because in the universe, Gwen Stacy's universe, it's actually her best friend Peter Parker who dies in her hands. And then she just became this girl who just closed all relationship with the world, and she said, like, she wasn't really comfortable having friends, and at the end, they decide, Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy decide to become friends, and that's amazing. And of course, Miles Morales is the main character, so of course he learns. And there is, I mean, again, like I said, there are different, like, a lot of poignant lines that ringed very strong, especially for me as I am in this journey as an artist, as a podcaster, as a YouTuber, not knowing what I'm doing. And so, like, I got choked up when he said, like, he asks Miles Morales and says, like, he asks Peter Parker, like, but, because he wants to help people. He's a nice kid. So he has his power, so he wants to become Spider-Man. But he asks, like, what, like, how do I know? Like, how do I know that I'm ready? And he says, like, there's a really great line. He says, like, you don't. Like, it's a leap of faith. And that's so true. Like, especially, I mean, of course, like, if you want to become a doctor, like, you can't just go a leap of faith. You need medical training. But, like, especially when you are into, like, creative stuff, like when you want to create something, like a podcast, like a YouTube channel, or like just cartoons, comics, movies, like, how would you know? Like, you don't. It's a leap of faith. So, and this was, like, really amazing. So, and of course, like, this is really great writing, because the Peter B. Parker is actually he has seen a lot of things. Like, he has gone through tough times. He got married to Mary Jane. He got divorced because he was too scared to have kids, and he never dared to go back to Mary Jane to apologize and to reconnect. So he also was carrying some baggage, right? So, and he was like, how do I know that I'm ready, especially for, like, because that's another big step in life. And Miles says the same dialogue back to him. You don't. It's a leap of faith. So, yeah, a lot of big things. I don't know who said it, but they say that the biggest decisions are taken in like 10 seconds or something in that period of time. I don't know how scientifically or accurate that is, but it's, especially like I said, again, if it's something that you want to do creatively, just start. Like, find people, like, and speak out, because if you speak, this is going to sound really, because I'm in a good mood. If you speak out, the universe will speak back to you. It will respond, and you just have to be prepared. Like, if you want to be a writer, just write something and have something finished. If you want to become a comic book artist, just do comics and then have something finished. Like, yeah, if you want to become a filmmaker, just make movies with your friends, just shoot things. Again, as you can see, I'm in a really good mood. This is a really great movie. I want to go see it again. I think I hope I'll be able to go see it again. Again, I recommend, of course, if you haven't watched this movie and you've been listening to this, like, I've probably spoiled. No, I've not spoiled it. Like, it's one of the truly unique experiences. Like, I can't remember the last time I felt like this in a movie. Like, it was so genuine. It was so honest. It was so made with love. Okay, I can go on on about this, but I just wanted to end this by saying thank you very much for listening. So my name is Boris, like I said, cartoonist, teacher, podcaster, YouTuber. You can find other stuff I do. I put them usually in the description below. I write blogs. My blog website is sketchmanboris.wordpress.com. My Instagram, where I post regularly. By the way, after watching this movie, I was so pumped that I made a digital art of Miles Morales, Spider-Man. I just uploaded it before recording this podcast. It's my Instagram account is @sketchman_Boris, where you can find all my whatever I do. I usually put snippets in there, like previews and stuff. Of course, I have Movie Messenger, YouTube channel, Sketchman Boris, which is another YouTube channel where I do drawing tutorials. And did I forget something? No, I think that's it. And I'll also put the links to my webcomics on Webtoons applications and websites. So I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've enjoyed the movie as much as I did. I hope you enjoyed my podcast as you enjoyed the movie. I mean, come on, that movie is great. So until next time, this is Boris, Movie Messenger, and this is the Art Is Podcast. See you next time.